Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to another night of To an Imperfect Union, brought to you by the political conscience of West Coast Steeler fan. Um, I woke up this morning and turned on MSNBC, as I usually do, and I found out that there was actually a new app uh, that just became available today, and it's in the App Store uh, on your iPhone. Would think that it's available on Android also. And the app is called TURNSIGNL without the A. TURNSIGNL. Now, let me give you a description of what this app does. TURNSIGNL is the fastest growing legal guidance app for drivers. When you are pulled over by law enforcement or in an auto accident, TURNSIGNL provides on-demand guidance from an attorney over video call 24/7, 365 days a year. With this easy-to-use app, you can always drive with an attorney in the passenger seat. It goes on. Our attorney partners are trained to protect your civil rights, de-escalate roadside interactions, and get everyone home safely. TURNSIGNL has you covered. 24/7 legal guidance from expert attorneys in your jurisdiction. Industry-leading video connection speeds puts you face-to-face with an attorney without delay. It automatically records the full interaction using your phone's camera. Recording of the encounter is immediately saved to your personal cloud. I see Mr. Scott is here. Let's get Mr. Scott in. Good evening, Mr. Scott.
Well, James, greeting. I've got a special guest with me. I don't know if you're able to see him.
Not
Special guest. This is Walter, Secretary of Sports Insight. We were over here. My granddaughter had her 5th birthday, and so a couple of us were here. And so the secretary wanted to check out your show. I said, James, he's kind of keeping an eye on Minneapolis, and I thought I'd bring the secretary in so that you could meet him, James.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Hey, you're doing pretty good.
Since you're Secretary of Sports, we have to get you on our Thursday show also. I don't know if Mr. Scott told you about that, but we have a sports crib show on Thursday, so you're welcome to come on there too. Talk a little baseball with us, a little Minnesota Vikings or whatever.
That'd be great.
So I was just reading this new app that came out this morning, as a matter of fact, Mr. Scott, and it's only available in 3 states: Minnesota, California, and Georgia. And the app was actually initiated as a part of what was the young man that got killed? The lady pulled her gun instead of her. Pulled her gun instead of the taser.
Yeah, right. Daunte Wright. Yeah.
Right. Well, this is all kind of in remembrance of Mr. Wright. And I was just reading a description of what this new app does. The new app is called— without the A. And was launched today. It says TURNSIGNL is the fastest growing legal guidance app for drivers. When you are pulled over by law enforcement or in an auto accident, TURNSIGNL provides on-demand guidance from an attorney over video call 24/7, 365. With this easy-to-use app, you can always drive with an attorney in the passenger seat. TURNSIGNL has you covered 24/7, legal guidance from expert attorneys in your jurisdiction. Industry-leading video connection speed puts you face-to-face with an attorney without delay. Automatically records the full interaction using your phone's camera. Recording of encounter immediately saves to your personal cloud. Full recording remains available to download for up to 30 days after the incident. Right now, it has a 4.7 rating out of 5. See some of the other features here. Anyway, and it seems to be a free app. It doesn't have a charge.
Yeah, but James, how is this video being captured? I mean,
Well,
you guys,
it says it's being captured according to the description. It says it's being captured on your phone. Okay, it automatically records the full interaction using your phone's camera. Recording of encounter immediately saves to your personal cloud.
Yeah, but if you get pulled over,
well, this was the first question that I asked. Yeah. Is this app safe? After you're pulled over, of course, your phone comes on. You have this big light come on. You're reaching because you're not allowed to text while you're driving, so your phone shouldn't be by your side. It's either up close to the driver's side or somewhere close. So as the officer comes, the light comes on your phone. What is his reaction? Were you once again reaching for a weapon? Because he can't see inside your car, right? So is this app safe? That's my question. Do you think this app is safe for you to use as a black man after dark?
No, I don't know. Secretary, you got any thoughts on that?
I think the best thing is stay home. You stay home and watch television. Stay in the house.
But yeah, no. I mean, I was stopped. James, I was telling Secretary, I got stopped coming from the gym, and it's a street where there's railroad tracks. But I've been here 70 years. I've never seen a rail car on these tracks. I mean, it's just quiet, sleepy area. There's nothing there, no houses, nothing. But there's a stop sign by the tracks. So I got stopped by the Richfield police. They said and then I said, well, why'd you stop me? They said, well, it was rolling stop and blah. I said, well, I've gone through this thing every day. I go to the gym every day. And so what ended up happening is they pulled me over and my wallet was in my gym bag that was in the front seat. And so when I looked over at my gym bag, there was a policeman on that side of the car with his hand on his gun. And so I said, look, my wallet is in here with my ID and everything. So what do I do? So they, finally backed off and let me do it and checked. And I was really pissed about it. And they said, well, I'm just giving you a warning. But what it was, I called the city of Richfield because my wife worked there. And this lady answered, I said, my wife, Jackie, works at the city of Richfield. Why did these police stop me? Oh, Jackie's my friend. We go to lunch almost every day. Okay, that's great. But why did the police stop me? Well, it was a training. The police that stopped you, he was doing training. So now that's the same thing with Daunte Wright. That was a training stop.
Precisely.
I'm like, man, I could have been killed on something like this, a training stop, if I had reached into my bag. So that's another, on training, you're going to stop people, just to train the officer on stuff. No, that's, you got to train them a different way than that, because if this guy's there with a gun, I move. And so this app you're
The
talking about,
man with the gun was probably the trainee. I mean,
but to your point on the app, as the secretary said, I mean, I don't see how that's I'll have to look that up, because what your research said is that this is something that's available here.
yeah, it's only available in 3 states: Minnesota, uh, uh, California, and Georgia. Um, as I said, it was rolled out this morning, kind of in the remembrance of Daunte Wright, and I thought it was interesting that, first of all, that it was only available in these 3 states immediately.
Yeah.
Um, you know, mostly Democratic states, mostly states with a high minority population, and in states where these things have happened on a regular basis. I think just last week we had an incident in North Carolina, I believe. So it's when I know I make it sound quite dramatic, but it seems like it's open season. I mean, whether it's in your state or California or Georgia or Arizona or Texas or North Carolina. I mean, right there, I went through what, 5 or 6 states. We haven't talked about Chicago, Wisconsin, Ohio, and so it's I know a lot of people don't want to hear disarm the police, or uh, uh, I refer to it as reform the police, not dismantle the police, because you do need police. But if you consistently have officers not being held accountable for bad deeds, how are you supposed to get the black community to trust that car that pulls up that says protect and serve?
Well, I want to, Secretary, what do you think about this thing up here, this defund the police? What was your thoughts about that big movement?
It was all base. It was ridiculous. You can't have a lawless city. You can't have a lawless neighborhood. You just can't. It wasn't. To get rid of the police. That was ridiculous. You have to have them, but at the same time, you can't have certain officers on the department that have all these violations and misconducts. I mean, you can't have that. And unfortunately for Minneapolis, this city has a long time occurrence of this misconduct and inappropriate behavior and payouts because of the Minneapolis police. You got all of those things, okay? And so instead of, and they were very qualified people over the years who worked to get to have the police to pay their own insurance, because it was so bad. The payouts were getting to be so out of hand that a group of citizens known as the police review, they just said, look, let's just put on the ballot so people can vote, put a measure on there that says the police, they have to get their own insurance because this is out of hand, these payouts. And the
Now,
taxpayers, we have to pay for that.
let me ask you something. Now, you just recounted years of misconduct by your police department. Years. Not just not just the last couple of years, but decades. So why are you funding a police department that you know is corrupt? You get more weapons than you do. You have 250 men that have never stepped foot in a neighborhood that resigned. Why not take those funds and put in a special unit that investigates the police and redistributes this money where it belongs? Because evidently funding your police department has not worked. You've just said that yourself.
Well, like I said, we've had a number of mayors and a number of police chiefs in succession over a certain number of years, even decades. And the same problem, it happened, whether it was Sharon Sales Belton, the mayor, whether it was R.T. Ryback, the mayor,
Terrible,
or whether it's now the present mayor, Jacob Fry. It's the same thing. Whether the police chief, maybe it could have been Robert Olson, or it was Tim Dolan. These things just kept happening. And in fact, it got worse under Tim Dolan was really where it took off. You're talking about from 2004 to 2016, the payouts for misconduct of police amounted to over $20 million from 2004 to 2016. And we had a chief that got hired around 2005 named McManus. Bill McManus was his name. And he was determined to have a good department where the police would speak and say hello to people and be cordial and have positive interaction with the community. He wanted the police to be that. But apparently, our mayor at that time, who was R.T. Ryback, he sided with the other faction of the police that didn't want Bill McManus. And they ended up making Tim Dolan the chief. And they didn't renew McManus's contract. And so in 2006, McManus went to San Antonio, became the chief, and is still the chief in San Antonio today.
To this day.
Bill McManus is still the chief. He's even been to San Antonio Spurs games. I've seen him on NBA game. He said in there, there's the mayor, there's the police chief, Bill McManus. And so it's just really, really something, we had some things here that we were trying to do. We were trying to keep Bill McManus as our chief. And we had a police community review consisting of citizens, Michelle Gross, Jerry McAfee, Alfred Flowers, Ron Edwards, Zach Montoya. And we had that to monitor things, to say, hey, look, we want this thing to be fair. We want this thing to be just. We don't care if the criminals if somebody's out here doing wrong, we don't care who they are. They can be black, white, or whoever. We want them to be held accountable. And that's what we want. And that's still what we want. But the thing is that you can look at all the other cities in this state, St. Paul, Eden Prairie, Minnetonka, Edina, Richfield. None of them have had the problems with the police. Nothing in comparison to what Minneapolis is.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It's completely and that's why Minneapolis is a focal point to the country, because you got the girl from Australia who was killed by the Somali police officer. Now you have Amir Lock, you've had Philando Castillo, and it just and it's probably going to happen again. It's probably, I would say, Amir Lock is getting ready. They're going to get paid. Okay, they're going to get hit $30 million. George Floyd, they just got $27 million. And you'll have Al Sharpton and you'll have Ben Crump up here. They'll be coming up here. They only come up here when somebody gets killed by the police. Now you have all these black on black, these fools out here who don't know who they are. They're not proud of who they are. And you have black on black out here. But you don't see Al Sharpton and Ben Crump for that. We had these little girls, beautiful little girls, 10 years old. And they got shot and killed by just some gang members firing randomly. And these two beautiful 10-year-old girls going to school every day doing a beautiful job.
Yeah,
you didn't see
remember
Sharpton.
you.
You didn't see Sharpton, and you didn't see Ben Crump come up here for that. But they only come up here for Daunte Wright. They come up here for Amir Lock, and they come up here for George Floyd.
And they take the money with them when they leave. Welcome, Miss Sims. Welcome, Miss Sims and Dr. Casey. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing well. I was just talking about this brand new app that was introduced this morning called TURNSIGNL without the A. And this app is only available in Minnesota, California, and Georgia. And what this app is supposed to do is supposed to record your interaction with the police. As I had read the app earlier, it says that our attorneys are trained to protect your civil rights, de-escalate roadside interactions, and get everyone home safely. The TURNSIGNL has you covered 24/7 legal advice from expert attorneys in your jurisdiction. Industry-leading video connection speed puts you face-to-face with an attorney without delay. It automatically records the full interaction using your phone's camera. Recording of the encounter is immediately saved to your personal cloud, and full recording remains available to download for 30 days. Now, Mr. Scott had just said that, he got pulled over not too long ago and his information was in his wallet, which was in his gym bag. Well, now, first of all, you're not supposed to be texting while you're driving, so therefore your phone is not immediately available in your hand. So you're stopped. The policeman comes out. You hit your app. The light comes on in your phone. What do you think about this? I mean, is this another one of those accidents waiting to happen? What do you think, Miss Sims?
Greetings, all. Well, I kind of heard about this a while back, as it was, I guess, somebody's idea. Can you hear me?
Yes.
When it was in the idea phase, and I didn't know that it had been further developed, and it's at the point that it's at. From what you just said and described and discussed about the app on the phone, etc., etc., when I read your statements earlier, something like that, I would need to do some more research about it, because just having on your more research on it in regards to the follow through, the ins and outs, the holes that might be there, and it's reading how you can expectate your adversaries to be looking at it and to want to destroy certain things. But in terms of actually, I think it would have to go further than just being on your phone. I think I did have some thoughts a while back. Something like that to me would need to be permanently attached some way to your car, so that, number one, you wouldn't be on your phone or have to look for your phone to push something to come on. It would be something that possibly be attached someplace on your phone, so it could do as you're getting for conversations in and out of the phone, so they would have a full view of what's going on. And I think there's technology out there to be able to
Yeah,
do that.
Yeah,
But
it would have to be like the police. It would have to be like the
yeah,
police have a
something,
dash cam or a body
yeah,
cam.
yeah.
I mean, it would
Yeah,
have to be something of that type
right,
of a
and
thing.
right, and it
You're
would
not
go
going to be
on,
pulled over and
right,
pull your phone
right,
out and start
right,
doing
right,
like this
right,
with your
right.
phone. I mean, so.
And it would have to be able to go on kind of immediately, like where you just needed to push something on your steering wheel or reach for something, push a button, etc., to access it, to have it to come
But
on. Now,
false movements, you might get shot.
right, and to do it before you stop. Before you stop. That's right. That's why I said I would have to read to see what it's all about, to incorporate all those safety features that need to be there for someone to be able to use it, like I guess people with the idea they came up with, to be able to use it safely and effectively in the aftermath of. I know the 30-day part you just read to me sounded 30 days or something. I'd have to read.
It keeps your recording for 30 days. In other words, that if you get stopped on the 1st of September, but I read the full description. See, you was on Color People's Time today, but I read the full description before you came on. But you can go to your app store and it'll give you the full description, and then
which I would do, but I'm coming in a little late because I was whipped up earlier a few hours ago regarding something else. But I'll not let it interfere with my communication with my loved ones here. Even though what you say, I'll populator, but oh wait, now I better not do that because I could get charged. But I understand where you're coming from. But for something like that, I guess I'm in this way, I'm kind of like Dr. Casey. I want to research and find out and read what's going on, totally the whole circle, what's under the first layer of things like that. For it to be I think it's a good idea, but for the good idea to be a good working model and things to do for all concerned, I want to look at it and find out more about it.
Dr. Casey,
Well,
what's your thoughts? Georgia is one of those
James, if I could.
Go ahead, Mr. Scott.
George, I wanted to. Yeah, no, I was just going to say I saw Dr. Casey, and the gentleman next to me, he happened to be here. And my granddaughter's 5th birthday. This is my brother, Walter, Secretary of Sports Insight. He retired teacher, Minneapolis Public Schools, former baseball player, Alabama State, decorated baseball player, coach of Minneapolis Central, Minneapolis North High School. He joined us for a few minutes, and he's got another appointment, but he wanted to join the program for a while.
I remember you speaking of him fondly at previous broadcasts. Yeah. It's nice to meet you.
You can give us some final thoughts if you'd like, Mr. Scott, before you go.
Well, like you said, I mean, you just have to I was just telling you like it is. I mean, Minneapolis has a problem. Minneapolis has a problem. The Minneapolis police have they have been a problem. I mean, that's been a real problem, because of these payouts are so to the point where it's just it really is, it's out of hand. Something constructive should be done. And on the other side, we've got in the community, we have mayhem and disturbances, and we have people getting hurt, innocent people getting hurt, getting injured, and yet you have another group that wants to get rid of the police. They just want to get rid of them altogether. And you can't do that, because you can't have a lawless anything. You can't have a lawless home. You can't have a lawless neighborhood. You can't have a lawless city. And so if that had passed to get rid of the police, because they put it on the ballot, but we voted to keep the police. We just want the police to be fair. They took an oath to do a good job, and that's all we want them to do. That's all they should be doing. That should be the entire focus. what is to fulfill the oath that they took. They didn't take an oath to become a group of vigilantes, to be an offspring of the Nazi stormtroopers or anything like that. That's not what they're there for. And so, and then we have our own problems here in the Black community. We don't want to speak up and say, "Hey, wrong is wrong." But yet, if it's a police officer, then they want to say something. But what about what about when it's your own? That's worse. Because remember,
I
Honorable Muhammad said is that some of us can be 7 times worse than the slave master himself. That's what Mr. Muhammad said, and I have found that to be true. And so we can't have it. We can't have a law. You can't have a lawless city. Anybody that's out there that's doing wrong, I could care less who they are. If they're doing wrong, they got to be held accountable. Period. That's what's got to happen.
but if your police are part of the lawless, I still say that you have to do something to reform the police before you start talking about having trust within the Black neighborhood. Because when the police pulls up behind you, the first thing you do is the back of your neck, you get that little sweat, you know, it's, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Like, as Mr. Scott was talking about earlier, we don't, when you were expecting, even though he just gave you a warning, you were still upset that you even stopped. Because we don't have that type of trust in our police. But Dr. Casey, go ahead. What do you think about this new app, and
So
and whether or not it's going to potentially get more Black men killed than saved?
it kind of depends. So if you have the app, then I would um assume or think that you would probably have your phone mounted to your dashboard and kind of not on your hands, and or if you have a newer car, they have apps to where it kind of just functions. Your phone is like in the dash. So there is ways that could work, even if it worked sort of like how um, when you have the uh, OnStar or whatever the SOS system is in your car. So it could be effective if it worked like that OnStar type of, mechanism. Um, but there are definitely some areas of concern when it comes to it being an app on your phone. Again, like you said, having to actually push your phone and be messing around, and they be looking for a reason to shoot. So that part is kind of dangerous, but it kind of depends on how they roll it out. It depends on some mechanics. Being able to have the video is good. All of the evidence part of it is great because you definitely want to be able to have your evidence for a long period of time. I just don't know how the evidence will hold up in court. Now, when you said that about the lawyers being right there, now I was listening to something earlier in which it came from a PDF book that you can find online. I'll get more information and I'll try to post it on my Instagram or something. But where they said that if you get stopped and they take you to jail with and not take you straight to court, then they have violated your rights. So there are some things just in general that we need to know in order to protect ourselves so that we can hold the law to the law. But those are some of what I call loopholes, and it's the things that we don't know enough about to really try to enforce. Because there's plenty of where you see people that may get stopped or try to be questioned, and then they know the laws to the point to where the police don't mess with them. I mean, they might harass them for probably about 10 minutes to try to get them to break, but normally they're able to walk away without a ticket, without a citation or anything. So, it's going to depend with this app. I'll like to see how it starts, because normally how it starts is not how it's going to end, because it's going to take time to tweak it and make it be what it needs to be, and not just what the ideal of it is, because most times when you first start something, it doesn't start out the way that you was hoping it would be, but then it takes time and you can perfect it.
That's what I'm kind of thinking too. Is
You
that
know,
it's
and
going
then
to take
and
a
then
little
where does
time
the app go? I mean, it's kind of like the
to your
police.
cloud. To your cloud. It goes to
Yeah.
your cloud.
Okay, so
Not
it's
not. It goes to your cloud and to your attorney. It does
okay.
not go to the police.
Okay. So then it can't be supposedly
Yeah, that's
manipulated.
all those, yeah, all those details that you all are discussing. I was thinking of in regard. I would expect for uh, for that app to have, I call it a prototype, would have been tried and been through some testing to see if it works in regards to just throwing it out there and hope that it works. I would, for especially if the legal system is going to be involved in that, I would expect for things to be spot on versus just willy nilly. And there's
Well, if this
technology, but
Miss
even
Sims, if
even
this
when you,
goes to your attorney and it's endorsed by the bar association, I mean, what more do you need it to do?
the other thing that the person
And
needs to
and
do, and
and
I thought
today and
I
today
thought of
was the first day. It is so like everybody says. I'm expecting it
It,
will
it's
be
what
tweaked
it's
what
too.
it's
yeah,
it's
James.
going to be sufficient, but it's still going to have to work through some things. It doesn't
Oh
matter how
yeah,
Yeah,
sufficient
yeah.
it is
yeah,
when it starts out.
yeah.
It's
To
still a
answer your
prototype
question,
right now.
yeah, to answer your question, Jane, you need to know a lot more than just downloading it. You need to know, just what I said, how it works, if it works, if it's directed to the attorney. You got to read the instruction. I hope
Yeah.
instructions
And
come
is it
with
going to
it
stand
in
up
Oh
in
regard.
yeah,
court?
yeah.
Yeah,
Is
I
it
was
going to
reading
stand up
them.
in court?
yeah, and all that, and you said for 30 days, if you could download it from the app, to your computer, etc. then you for me, people need to educate themselves in regards to the legal aspects of it, because as Mr. Dr. Casey was saying, uh, various states have various laws in regards to certain things,
Yeah.
so you need to be up to date on what what
Okay,
what is legally out there for
let me
you
let,
for
let
you
me
to
re-
even trust in the app and
let,
the lawyers and whatever. You need to know your rights and what's be
let,
prepared
let,
as much as
let,
possible.
let me read it to you again. This is it. This is in the app. This is when you put in the app. This is what it says. Turn Signal has you covered 24/7 legal guidance from expert attorneys in your jurisdiction. In your jurisdiction. Industry leading video connection speed puts you face to face with an attorney without delay. Automatically records the full interaction using your phone's camera. Recording of encounter immediately saves to your personal cloud. Full
The
recording.
thing is, if it's your attorney that is contacted immediately, okay, so a couple of different things that just came to mind. One, how much is it a month? Is it a charge
It's free.
monthly?
It's
Okay,
free.
well, if it's free, then being able to get your or an appointed attorney on the line if you get stopped by the police can be helpful, because just in the sense of, if a person is there and they hadn't done anything wrong or don't feel like they've done something wrong, and that attorney is on the phone, then that attorney is able to um technically be a bridge, but there is always that, unless there is like a camera that comes on and they can actually see what's going on, it's going to be like, I won't say ineffective, but it's going to be kind of like, because if they can't see who's on the phone, then the person that the policeman might not honor it. They might, you know what I'm saying, think it's something else because it's gonna be some type of bootleg version of something, and somebody's gonna try to get over with the mindset of what the app is supposed to be. But it's a couple different things that could go on. Hopefully it works well because if nothing else, it can serve as a barrier to make the police not be as aggressive. There is a possibility that with the app that they will be like, you know what, maybe we shouldn't.
But the app could catch you in the wrong. I
I
mean,
mean,
if it's out there in the cloud and you're taping something and it's out there and you can't,
whatever it is, when it's time to click that app, then you know what you click in that app.
This
So if you click the app
this
and then you do some crazy foolishness, then that's on you.
yeah. This app is only good for traffic stops. It ain't good in the club. It ain't good when this is only for traffic stops. So, you know, but as
interesting,
you know, as
interesting.
uh, we have
I'm gonna have to go out and come back in. I'm having problems connecting with you all.
okay, um, and once again, I think it comes back to trust within the black neighborhood. And as you spoke, Mr. Scott, you got pulled over on a training exercise.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
just like Daunte Wright. He was
Daunte
pulled over
Wright
on the
got pulled
training.
over on a training
It was
exercise.
that training.
So
He got killed.
right, and this supposedly, is the reason behind this app. Figuring that if it had have never escalated to that point, then perhaps things would have had deter, uh, a
But
different
but,
determination.
but
But
James, the whole thing of video. See, video. I mean, it's a tricky thing because the Amir Lock situation that happened here, the Hennepin County attorney and state attorney Keith Ellison came out, had a press conference, and said those officers with the no-knock warrant that came in and killed that brother, there'll be no charges for them. They acted correct because the man pointed a gun at the officers. Okay, but then the video that you see shows the man is under the covers
pointing
and
the
the
gun
gun
away,
falls
the
out of
gun
his
is
hand.
pointed. The gun is actually pointed at the floor.
The gun is pointed at the ground. His hand had a gun, but it's pointed at the ground. And all this happens in 9 seconds. Okay. And so my thing with that is okay, if you say and you've got it in your body camera, if you say he pointed the gun at let's see that. Let's see that video. Let's see that. But the video I saw showed the man looked like he was asleep, really. Just kind of,
He
oh,
was
God,
he
you heard all
was
this
he
noise.
was the man was asleep,
I
but
mean, still asleep when they came in and he heard all this noise and his hand falls out, pointed towards the ground, and they killed him because he had the gun in his hand. But they say they killed him because the gun was pointed at them. And my thing is, okay, well, show us that. Show
well,
that.
see, but once again, Mr. Scott, you know, it, I'm gonna keep harping on the same thing that I did before. The people of Minneapolis reelected these people. You put these people in office. You knew in their first term the problems that you were having. Just as I was talking about the police department, you know that, okay, just within the last 3 years, you've paid out close to $100 million in settlements.
That's just what my brother just said. All the payoff.
Right, right. So it's evident that the police department under its current function is not working. So if you don't start over and you keep, how do you keep mixing uh, leftovers with fresh food sooner or later there's going to be some salmonella, there's going to be some kind of virus, there's going to be some type of interaction that is detrimental unless you start from scratch. So if you're not willing to start from scratch, how are you going to get these bad eggs or whatever, or keep these constant situations from reoccurring because you still had the same police in the police union?
Well, if I could just respond to, James, what you said, one of the things I take great issue with, I take tremendous issue with, is the fact that you say you,
No,
you.
no, I don't mean you personally. I'm saying you, the people of Minneapolis.
Yeah, and so that's the question. I mean, people say it's a Democratic problem. It's the Democrats, they get in and they don't do this, they don't do that. Would the Republicans do any better? And then the issue of just saying defund without a plan. See, this is the thing that was up here. They just, okay, so take their money away so they can't do anything. So here we sit without a police force. Okay, that's fine. Well, what do you replace it with? And they didn't have any thoughts. They didn't have any plan. They didn't have how they were going to do it. They just said, we're just going to take the money away and do what with it? I mean, so that's the reason why, I was against the defund, because they didn't have a plan. If they're going to say, okay, we're going to really look at these bad egg officers and we're going to get them out of here. We're going to start a new academy. We're going to start new recruits. We're going to do a community-based type of policing. We're going to have a plan. But, I mean, so from that standpoint, I have to agree. And it's even spurred me to get involved. There's a lady that she's running for Mike Freeman's position as the Hennepin County attorney. And so I'm behind her, Martha Holton Dimick, because I think she's a former judge. She's a former prosecutor. She's a former city attorney. She's a sister that I think we need some change at those kind of levels to at least make some kind of a start here.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. No, when I say you, I'm not using that personal. I'm saying you
Sure.
as a city, as a
Sure.
group.
Sure.
But I think I heard one program that the young lady was on that you and Don interviewed her, I believe.
Maybe yes, she was on. We did interview Martha. Yeah.
Right. And I've seen some pictures with her and Don since. Yes, I think is that the one that she was a head of corrections, or she works at neighborhood corrections or something like that?
No, I think that was Sawana, who's running for Hennepin County Sheriff.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
both of those young ladies have great plans. Whether or not they'll be able to format those plans. A lot of us come in with good plans, but then we find out that there are other obstacles, that are placed in front of people that do have good plans. But I want to go back to your the killing of the young man recently
Amir.
here, Amir. And as you said, they came out with this statement that there would be no charges filed. Well, I don't know. 9 seconds is quite a bit of time in a stressful situation. But from the videos that have been shown, this young man did absolutely nothing wrong.
Yeah.
As you said, when they came in, the young man was asleep. He had a firearm that was licensed. He had got it because I think he was an Uber driver, or he was a driver, and that was the reason why he put in for the permit. So he did everything legal that was supposedly to do. As as said many times, for a young black man, 22 years old, to be able to even get a legal carry permit, to me was an accomplishment. You know, so when you have your police department come out, well, first of all, you have a mayor that was reelected that said that he was going to cease and desist with no knock warrants. That was part of his election campaign. Now, once he was elected, of course, things have changed, and so have things with your police chief. But as your brother was talking about, we have black on black crime, and I will be one of the first ones to admit, I don't call it black on black crime. I call it poor on poor crime, because it doesn't matter whether it was within a black neighborhood, Latino neighborhood, uh, Asian neighborhood. If it's in a neighborhood that's basically below the poverty level, it's a crime ridden neighborhood. Doesn't matter what ethnicity it is. But when you have police that are constantly flaunting the law, and you're seeing people being killed because of it, where do we start within our own neighborhood? I mean, like you said, we can't have vigilantes. We would, we're not going to have, uh, armed men necessarily walking the street, but at some point, I think that there has to be a certain amount of self-respect within the neighborhood in order for us to get rid of these people within the neighborhood that keep doing things that bring disfavor and keep bringing the type of interactions with the neighborhood that we're talking about now.
Yeah, I would agree. And I'm hoping that the sister that wants to come in as Hennepin County attorney, see, those officers should be held accountable for killing that Amir Lock. And I mean, I think that when it comes out, big press conference, with not only the Hennepin County attorney, but the state attorney general, Keith Ellison. Well, these officers acted within their duty, and the man pointed a gun. And like I was saying, let's see that. Show us that if that's what you saw. But I mean, and what I was going to say too about the cameras is, the old trick seems to be they tell you that, well, you didn't see what you think you saw. That's you didn't
I mean,
see.
they can write anything in those reports, though. It don't. That's the part, though, is that they can write anything in that report. So whatever that report gonna say, how is that gonna weigh in with whatever the video say, or the information that's captured from the app?
Well, like I said, once again, I mean, it does seem, I don't want to say peculiar, but it does seem rather odd to me that they picked these three particular states
Test it.
well, yeah, you can that's test this app, and like I said, these are all states that have a large population of minorities, and it has a reputation for minorities being pulled over in traffic stops with there being bad encounters. Uh, we just had one in North Carolina last week. But Dr. Casey, how are we supposed to uh, have faith in a police department that doesn't have our best interests at heart And once again, what about self-worth? What about, like wanting to improve your neighborhood? I realize that, I see it here. I see it, in different cities. There are places that have been burned down or torn down since some of them since the 80s. There are, I know there are certain neighborhoods where you can't go to a grocery store without having to cross a freeway or go to a different part of town. Same with pharmacies. So, how are we supposed to take our neighborhoods back and still have respect for a organization that, as I said, does not seem to have our best intentions at heart?
So it's not the organization technically, because it's not everybody in the organization. It's just a large enough number of people within the organization, or people with enough power have garnered enough fear to seem extremely powerful within the organization. So it makes the whole organization look bad. But there are um it's hard to say it's good cops, because if you're really a good cop, you're going to say something. But if you know you're going to be targeted if you say something, then it makes you, kind of become blind to what you see, because you don't want to be targeted. You don't want something to happen. You don't want, your family to be harassed or anything like that. So, it it's going to have to be some changes implemented in such a way to where it generates security. But the only way, I mean, security within the people. The only way for that to happen is for changes like the training to happen, and then the implementation of the things that are learned to actually take effect in the streets. The only good thing about that app is that it could make the officers fear getting caught even more. I mean, like, they got the videos. They got the. I mean, we see everything. I mean, like, how much more caught can you be and still get away with the shit? I mean, so it.
Like Mr. Scott says, you're not supposed to believe your lying eyes, right?
I mean, and listen, when we start talking about stuff like this, it always makes me say, those doctors that treated me, they swear up and down they did everything right, but I didn't caught them in the lie myself. I didn't need a lawyer. I didn't have no lawyer to do it for me. I caught them myself. So it's a whole different feeling. It's a whole different outlook on what they will do and put in those records in order to make themselves look like they did something right when they actually messed up. And that's the part that is not accounted for. Like, most people don't realize that they do lie. And like, that is not like some conspiracy theorist type thing. No, they gonna say what they want to say. And that's the part that a lot of people have to get over and understand. But also, it's something that's within the system that needs to be fixed, because it is a loophole and a manipulation of that, you know, the authority figure is right, because sometimes the authority figure is wrong. And, they're not accountable to themselves enough. They don't have enough integrity in most cases, in those instances, to say, you know what, I messed up. And then in other instances, the organization won't let them say that they messed up.
Uh,
So
uh,
it's going to take a lot to actually reframe what that the mindset of what the police department is, because you could change the name, you can start a new organization, you can just do away, you can defund the police, and then they can start something else. If they start something else and it has the same undertone, you might as well just kept what the
Kept
hell
the
was there
same
already.
thing. Right, right. Miss Sims, I was talking about the Minneapolis SWAT officer. Let me make sure I get his name right here. Mark Hanneman.
Mhm.
He will not be charged in the death of Amir Lock. uh, and it says that he acted in a manner that was fitting because he felt that his life was in danger and the weapon was pointed at an officer. Um, as Mr. Scott pointed out, that's not the video that we saw or that anyone else has seen. So, how do you uh,
That's the you. That's the
expect?
you.
How do you expect for the black community to feel safe if I mean, look at the results of just the last 2 years. It seems to be like open season on minorities in the state of Minnesota. I mean, like Amir Lock, the gentleman that we just mentioned, what's his name, Mr. Wright, uh, George Floyd. I mean,
If things if if things stay the same as they are now between the police and the community, they will continue to be adversaries at some level. Adversaries in regards to the behavior of the police force towards the community in various aspects. And something like this, for me, I look at the total picture in regards to the police force. When that shooting came out and other things, the first thing I did, I went to the police union website and looked to see, start researching the police union. Nobody's talking about the police union. I wanted to see uh, what's going on inside of that union to to give to continue to give uh, policemen the high comfort level of, if they shoot someone in the black community, that they will legally
It
and
has nothing to do with the
legally.
black community. It's the way the law is written. It doesn't matter who it is, whether they
I'm
white,
not.
black, green,
I
purple,
didn't.
yellow, or blue.
I didn't get to finish my thought that they have a high comfort level, even though they've seen lots of murders and killings going on across the country in the various aspects, but they continue to have a high level of comfort that they can shoot someone and get away with it through the judicial system, through their union, etc., etc. Now, for someone to continue to do something that's killing somebody and over again, they have to have some sort of comfort level to know that one of the things, they have to have a high comfort level to feel that they can get away with it. I started going. One of the reasons I went to the uh, police union website and the newsletter stuff, I wanted to find out exactly what that comfort level was, in addition to what I heard come out during the Chevron trial and et cetera, et cetera. And I found a lot of things that fit into that comfort level of what was going on in regarding to the people that are now that are in the union and stuff. And I think the police, the person that was head of the police union for years and years, I think he resigned last year or recently. And one of the quotes that I saw was that from Jacob Fry was "good riddance." That says, to me, just that says that there's tension and conflict going on, and the interim police captain right now, I think it's that woman.
yes, the police
Woman,
chief.
the police chief. I think it's the same woman that when this man resigned, she then became head of the union. I don't know if it's still that way, but this was in the last year or so. And so, to me, that says there's a lot of manipulation, a lot of things going on to fit in that comfort level of police that the police continue to have as an organization continue to have in regards to
I got a question for
killing
you, Miss
people.
Sims. Have
Yes.
you
I do.
read
I do. I do too.
the immunity laws? Did you go to like the federal immunity laws to read those? Because what you're talking about, the union ain't got shit to do.
Oh, yes, they
With
do.
all due
I,
respect,
I,
no,
I, I,
it is the
actually,
immunity laws
but
that
but the
allow
immunity
for
laws
them.
were adopted because they were backed by the police unions. Look
People
at the,
don't realize.
look at the whole picture. The police unions. That law was put up. That immunity law was put up because police unions felt comfortable enough in order for because
No, it's the
if
same
you read
law that applies to the military. It is the same law that applies to any government official. That has nothing to do with the police union. Any government official that do something wrong and say that they was doing it in the scope of their professional job will get off.
Yeah.
Period. Go
And
look at
then,
the law. It
and
does
That's
then,
not
true.
and
matter.
then,
It
There's
does
really.
not matter.
oh,
It does not matter. It don't matter if you the police. It don't matter if you the president.
I did
It
see
don't
that.
matter if you a firefighter. It don't matter if you a doctor. It don't matter if you the organization of the Department of Justice, the Department of Labor, whatever one. If you are in a position as a federal or state employee, period. If
Yep.
you in the military, if you overseas, whatever you do, if you tell them in your statement and you work up under the government, a government organization, I was doing my job, my life felt threatened, and this is what
yeah,
happened. Or if
and
you
that's the
say,
part
that's
that does
That's
happen.
yeah.
doing
I did, and I did
let me
see that.
finish.
That's in there. I did see
Let
that.
me
I
finish.
did
Let me
see
finish.
that. In addition to other things, yes, I did see what you're saying in that. What
None
I
of
read.
those other things make a difference. Once in that law, it says that if you in your statement you say that in the course of doing my job, this is what happened, and everything was normal and everything was okay, and I responded the way that I was supposed to respond. Guess what? You gonna get off. And
But
if
you
but
you
you might
but
want
that
to
goes
look.
a little
You
step
might want to
farther,
ask
Dr.
Lieutenant
Casey.
Calley about that. You
It
might
goes
want
a
to ask
little bit
Lieutenant
farther.
Calley about that. But go ahead,
It,
Mr.
it,
Scott.
yeah, it goes a little bit farther than that, Dr. Casey, because in this case with Amir, they said, I feared for my life.
that
Right.
is
I felt
again,
threatened. I
I just
feared for
that's
my
why I just
life.
said that.
Okay. And I say, okay, you fear for your life, sir. Here, you fear for your life. A man got a blanket on his head. He can't
It
see
don't matter.
nobody.
None
And
of
he
that
has a gun
makes a
pointed down.
difference.
So they
All they
only have to say, though, I agree with you, Dr. Casey. They have
mhm,
to just say those
mhm.
words.
It don't matter
And,
what the
and if
circumstance is.
you're black and the person has a gun on top of it, I mean, and
I
what I
bet.
saw
Yeah,
again, I saw a
I
man
didn't.
sleep with a cover on his head. He woke up and his hand was pointing at the ground. And
And
this
then
officer,
to
and there's
add
7
on to that,
officers, and he fears for his life. I mean,
to
come
add
on.
on to that, there was a time in history, and it's still probably a law that has not been crossed out or X out, where white people could go and police and kill people and say that they felt threatened, and it was okay for them to just kill black people randomly.
Yeah.
All of these things that we act like, oh, I can't believe. No, this was the law. This are things that were allowed, and most. This is why I say, personally and professionally, there needs to be a team. I can't do it. I don't want to do it because the law books is very thick. I went and I bought the Constitution and some other books. I got a whole lot of books, and I was gonna order some more, but I don't want to know that much, and I'm not doing it. However, what I would strongly suggest is there to be a team, organization, black people, Black Lives Matter could have did this shit right here with all that money. They could have hired some people to go and look through all the laws and say, okay, if we could reframe something, because if we're gonna be asking for something, we can't ask for something and we don't know what the hell we asking for. We asking and making demands, and then they say, okay, well, what do you want? Black people, what do y'all want? Reparations. Okay, reparations and what? That's it. Well, it's way more we need than goddamn reparations. But until somebody goes through the laws and see what laws is written, the Black Code, all these other extracurricular, the Native American laws that probably still intact, but now they call us African Americans, so now we don't fall up under the Native Americans because we don't know the law. All these things need to be researched, broken down, because there are a lot of laws in place, like in North
Yes,
Carolina, where you can still sue somebody because they slept with your husband. Like it's certain things. There are a lot of things that were written that don't even make sense. They just was.
certain states still have what they call Negro codes.
Mhm.
So
But we don't know that.
and
If
But
nobody goes
yeah,
through and
but
examines to
again,
see what it is and what how it needs to be reworked so that it's
but
actually
again,
equal.
with with Amir Lock, what's so telling is that when they had the press conference to say that these police will not be charged, it was Mike Freeman, the Hennepin County Attorney, and the black man Keith Ellison. Okay, that they all, I mean, that's he's over Mike Freeman. He's the state attorney general. He's the one that prosecuted the police in the George Floyd. So he comes out there and says this, that he's part of the, it's almost like they seem to always can find some one of us to co-sign,
No, they're gonna always bring the
Tim,
person that
Tim,
look like you to speak on on their
to
behalf because
co-sign.
it
yeah,
looks better. It ain't
Tim,
even them co-signing. They might not even really care to say whatever it is that they've been appointed to say, but as them doing it, it's just like, okay, when I deal with this lawsuit, there are some things that the prosecutor or the district attorney, which is the defense attorney, has said that she ain't never seen nothing like this before. Some things that she has said, but she can't go and on the record and be like, "What is y'all doing?" She has to put up whatever front it is to
right,
protect whoever her client is at the end of the day.
and her job,
And,
and her
and
job,
her and I
and
feel
her
bad for her
job.
in some instances because it's like, damn, you in a position to where even if you wanted to do good, they're putting you where they need you so that you can damn turn the tricks for them,
Right,
basically.
and that's basically what it is. That's
Mhm.
basically
And I
uh,
feel bad because if you're in that position and that's your bread and butter, then what do you do? Do you tell them no, that you're not going to say whatever it is, or do you do your job?
What
uh,
where
not
is the ability to stand up? I mean, now, okay, we have this sister that's Supreme Court justice. Okay,
They can only
now
stand
we've
up so
had
much.
Clarence Thomas in there for how many years?
yeah, but Clarence Thomas
But
is
his wife is already
Clarence Thomas
Okay,
has proven to you time and time again that he
puppet,
might be the same color that you are, but he
the
is
puppet.
nowhere near. Like what they say, all skin folk ain't kin folk.
The
that's
puppet.
what that wasn't
But
Okay,
Thurgood
exactly
Marshall
what came to
stood
mind.
up. Thurgood Marshall stood up.
Thurgood Marshall and Clarence Thomas are two different
There you
individuals
go.
and two different men, and they were put on the Supreme Court for two different reasons.
Mhm.
But uh, I wanted, there's one thing that really kind of has been getting my goat lately, and that's these Republican conservatives talking about the John Lewis Voting Act. And the first thing you hear is that, well, voter ID. Well, if you look at the date in 20, I think it was what, 22 June 2021, Joe Manchin, Stacey Abrams, Nancy Pelosi worked out an agreement. And the agreement was that voter ID would be required. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can go and read the act itself. Voter ID is required. We have Republican conservatives, black conservative Republicans, that the only obstacle that they can put in front of this bill has been in front of the Senate twice with the stipulation that voter ID is required. So there's two questions here. Why are we trying to, why are we having candidates for positions when they don't know what their position entails? You have someone running for Congress that doesn't know what the number one bill is in Congress. So how is this person
I
qualified to run for Congress if they don't know the qualifications of their job, whether they be black or white?
I'm not necessarily for Stacey Abrams, personally.
I didn't. It's not about Stacey Abrams. It's about the Voting Act. I don't care. I can put another name in there. Do you want to put?
I mean, no, 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 no. I wanted
I
to
can
say
put.
that.
I can put Mr. Scott's favorite person there. Omar.
No, 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 no.
You
I
know,
needed to say that because
okay.
there are some democratic policies and things in general that make me uncomfortable, that are being pushed through. But when it comes to the Voting Act, they go whichever way the wind blows. It seems, they are for whatever is going to get them to the next level, and that's not always the best thing. It's like, um so many things that were said, even when you think about Biden before he went into, and I know what you're talking about, but I need to say this too. Even when you think about when Trump was in, Biden used to talk all type of trash about the vaccine and how Trump was handling it and da 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 da. And then when he got in office, he flipped the script and then he came and started going hard about the vaccines and the requirements and the mandates. And so when you think about even the Voting Act, it sound good whichever way they leaning towards while the run is underway. But when they get in office, it's hardly ever um what it needs to be, unless they're doing it for the clout and the publicity of fighting for a cause. And nowadays a lot of people seem like they're doing a lot more stuff for the clout and the publicity that comes with being associated with the cause than the actual cause itself. Even when you think about the lady being um made a justice, a lot people are more like, "Oh, the first black person, oh, history." But what is she gonna do when she get in that seat? What is it going to benefit us long term? Because if we just doing stuff to say, "Oh," you know what I'm saying, this person made history, then it's not always gonna be fruitful. You know what I'm saying? Like, they in the hype of trying to be in history books more so than actually changing history.
What's your thoughts on that, Miss Sims? You come from the same generation I am. We watched John Lewis walk across that bridge.
And I'll answer that. In addition to finishing my thoughts regarding the police and what we were talking about, I know what Dr. Casey was talking about, that blanket immunity. That's what I was looking for when I went to the my research, and it was there. In addition to other things, the in the newsletter, the um, lawyer, the attorney law firm that represents the union, even bragged about how good of a record they had. But those are some things that's in there. Going back to the voting thing, to qualify to run for any office, even the president, is very minimum requirements. You have to be a citizen. One of the things, you have to be a certain age. It does not say you have to have gone to college. It does not. I don't think you have to take a test or anything like that. It's very basic and minimum. That's one way how a lot of clueless or uninformed people get to Congress and other political positions. The qualifications per se that are written and that are out there. James, you can run for. You can run for president. Any of us can run for president. I think at one here, I think you pay a certain fee, which is under $100 for local things. But that's one way that people can get to Congress that have strongly do their self-interest. And the people that are already in Congress, they're looking for people to bring on board that's going to support already what they've put in place and what they want to continue to be in place. That's how you get a lot of people that once they get there, and then no matter what they say and the promises they make, etc., once they get there, that's part of the strategy how to get them there. Then once they get there, the strategy is how to switch them to whatever's in place for the party to go on, for the party to keep that party and people in power or to gain more power. That's how a lot of people get to Congress and other positions, James. That's one way. I said that's one way. And then another, what adds to that is that the party that's the two-party system. So I'll say the Republican Party continues to count on the larger population, especially in certain groups of ethnic groups of people, not to vote. Not to vote. They are happy when certain groups do, when there isn't a large population of people going to vote, because the larger amount of people that go to vote, that by numbers that decreases their odds of remaining in power. So you have to think about the math. So there's one of their, then they have to do the strategy to continue to keep people from voting. One of them is the laws that's set in place to keep them from voting. They put laws in place to keep them from voting, and it's working. It's working. Been working so far, but I think as time is going on, the newer generation, the more generation, it's starting to click how important the essence of what this country is kind of founded on and operates on is the political aspect and voting and the voting and voting. And I don't think it's clicked. And maybe the politicians and people that are advancing are people to vote. I don't hear them stressing that particular area aspect of voting. It's just not going to the polls on one day. It's not just register. After you register, you got to vote. You got to think about who you're voting to, and the importance. And sometimes, and they don't connect how voting is connecting to the police department. They only think of it as a city council, but voting and politics covers not only voting but other things. It covers the behavior of people who are in the political arena, what they're going to do, etc., etc. And one of the fears of the Republicans and the powers that are in place, they do believe that what the numbers are saying, that within a few years, people of color are going to
Be the majority. Right.
Be the majority in numbers. So, but no, and I said this before, I haven't read anything anywhere that says just because the majority of numbers are going to be people of color, that they are going to be in power and in place. So if I'm a Republican, and I believe that that's happening coming down the pike, and I can see it, I'm going to do everything that I can do right now, and that's what's in my power. To I can't see that, realize that I can't literally stop it, but to attach other things to it that's gonna suppress it, continue to suppress and oppress people, and to keep me and develop strategies to keep me in power and my philosophies and things in power. And that's what's happening now.
Mr. Scott, um, I asked this question because the John Lewis Act is one of the obstacles that we seem to be coming across as minority voters. And I keep hearing black conservatives tell us that we should vote for them, but I have not heard one black conservative come out in favor of the John Lewis Voting Act. So why should I vote for a conservative that doesn't want me to vote anyway?
Well, James, I don't understand all this hoopla and everything about voting. I mean, it's real clear. You got to be a citizen. You got to be over 18. I mean, I don't know what the problem is with people don't want you to vote. I mean, they've already changed the constitutional amendments. If we adhere to that, I mean, it already says you got to be 18. You have to be a citizen. Now, where we run into the problem is we have a lot of people over in this country now that their citizenship, I mean, in my opinion, is questionable. I mean, I do unemployment work. I have a consulting thing where I do unemployment for all kind of employers all over the country. And with this COVID thing, people don't want to take it and they lose their jobs behind that. A lot of them, and so they apply for unemployment. So, I mean, I'm busy as can be doing these type of hearings. But as far as the Republicans, as far as black people, I mean, Alan Keyes, Armstrong Williams, Herman Cain, I mean, they're inconsequential, as the man would say. So the voting thing has already been settled.
The flip part, which is very important to what you're saying, is that once you're qualified, you gotta vote and be informed of who you're voting for, because we can be a trillion people, and the Republicans can be 1,000 people. But if that larger group of people don't vote, they remain in power. You gotta vote.
There's no sense of fooling around with Republicans because you look at the Senate, they got one black. Okay. So, I don't care if we outnumber them in the population, but I don't care how many. They're going to have their one or two puppets in there. That's what they're going to do. So, but you're right, though, Ms. Sims, we have to exercise our vote. But like I was saying, with the unemployment stuff I do a lot of work with Somalis. They know how to work the system.
Yeah.
And you can't pin them down because they're all born on the same day, January 1st, their birthday. All kinds of them is named Muhammad Ali. All kinds of them. There's more Muhammad Ali's I've had, and they know how to. I had one guy, we had a hearing 5 times. First time he says, well, I got to have an interpreter. And he's talking English and say he's got to have an interpreter. They put it down. Then the next thing, I got to have a lawyer. Then the lawyer comes. Then the next hearing, the lawyer can't make it. So it's got to be things. Now he's getting paid all this time. Next time, the next lawyer can't make it. So finally we have a hearing and he doesn't show up. And so when you lose your unemployment, you have to pay that back. They'll never find this guy. How many Muhammad Ali's are there? You'll never find him. And I think that could be part of what the voting thing is. You have to be a citizen. And I think people can play games with that. And, I think that's kind of the crux of the problem. I hate to say Republicans have an issue, but when you see it up close and you see people with the same name, the same birthday, thousands of people come in here, and Ilhan Omar, all of a sudden she gets to go to Congress, no background whatsoever. You have to put 2 and 2 together at some point.
And I keep saying, no matter what political party, you can't forget the strategy It consists of a strategy to keep you in power, to gain power, to control others.
See,
And
what
no matter
what
which party it is, that's there.
what
And they'll
what
work
Mr.
that.
what Mr. Scott doesn't want to realize is that it was 30 years of inactivity by the black community that enabled Ilhan Omar to get in there to begin with.
Yeah. Not
If you
voting.
if you had kept your chickens in your yard instead of opening up the fence and let them run all over the place, maybe Ilhan Omar would not be in there. But
Well,
that's a
we don't
but that's
hold we don't hold the key to the gate. We don't hold the key to the gate. Somebody else holds that key.
evidently right now the Somalis have it because that's who you have your biggest problem with.
Well, they
But
have an inside track. I'll give you that. They have an inside track.
I,
I'll give you that.
I'm still wondering how we've been here for 400 years, and you let people that come in here that's only been here with less than 100 years of history all of a sudden take over your political arena, and
And,
it's their fault, not yours.
and
But,
Dr. Casey, you keep hearing you. Don't you hear? You keep
yeah,
that you.
but once again, when I say you, I'm saying you, the people of Minneapolis. I'm not saying you personally, because those are the people that are in place, and you, the people of Minneapolis, voted to keep them in place.
But James, you
Well,
never talk
no,
about
no, no, no,
San
no, no, no,
Diego
no, no,
and what
no,
you're
no,
doing
no,
and
no, but
not
James,
doing.
because this is the second term of Mayor Fry. If you
That's
had
right.
wanted him out, you should have got him out. So
I
don't
agree.
bring
Right.
that up.
That's
You
right.
So,
know, wait,
Mr. Williams,
let me say
how are
this.
you doing this
Let me
evening, Mr.
just say
Williams?
this. Let me say this. Let
Yeah,
me
come
just
on now. Y'all gonna start talking about the rap game next. It's gonna be a whole other
no,
thing.
no,
Yeah,
no, no, no,
okay.
no. But let me say this. We have something called ranked choice voting here, okay? Which is a sham in itself. In other words, you vote for who you want, and then you have a second and a third choice. You know, and
And
I'm
who
not
voted
voting in
it in?
second.
And who
I'm not
voted that
voting.
particular system in?
I'm not voting any second or third choice. Why am I going to vote for somebody I don't want? And so this is where we get into the manipulation of voting, the like we were saying, Voter Rights Act, even though it's very clear if you're 18 and you're a citizen, you can vote. It's very clear. So I mean, this is where we get into the morass of this thing. This is where we get into, how does the Somali community get in?
Is there any law of voting that says that if you're standing in line waiting to vote, that I should not be able to give you a bottle of water?
None that I know of.
Okay. Okay. All right. Look. You might want to get with
That's
Dr.
a
Casey. You might want to get with Dr. Casey and ask her about the laws in Georgia. But as I was saying, good evening, Mr. Williams. How are you doing?
I could be
She's
better,
so
but I'm
rude.
good. I'm good.
Uh,
Hey, let
Mr. Williams, I don't know if you've heard about it, but the first thing that we talked about was this new app called TURNSIGNL. Have
Yep,
you heard about it? Okay.
I heard a
What,
little bit about it.
okay. Well, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I'm thinking, the police pulled you over, your car is dark, you put on the app on your phone, and the light comes on. I mean, you know, it's, we all admit, this is the first day. There's probably going to be some tweaks and whatever. But
Hmm.
what do you think about this new tool? Is this another excuse of, well, I saw him reaching, or what's your thoughts on this?
Well, my thought on that is I like the idea simply because we need to come up with innovative ways to counter being in positions to where we don't have proof as a people. I tell people all the time, and I myself have a dash cam um, that that records. I believe in having front and rear dash cams that record your speed as well as having all that documented for these very reasons. You get pulled over, the first thing the cop want to say, "Oh, you was going such and such in a 55." I got a dash cam to prove otherwise. At least something electronic to show that you really just pulling me over. So to me, anything that we got to where we can help to have our evidence is a good move. So I like the premise of it. I think there should be more, and I think there should be a free app versus one that you have to pay for. Because keep in mind, pretty much what we're talking about as it applies to the average black person is we may not necessarily be able to afford another subscription on top of subscriptions on top of subscriptions. So that's why the app may necessarily not make it in that many people's hands. And last I checked, I think they were saying it was like only around 2,000 people in that area that even utilize the app or pay for the app.
Well,
So
it's only three. It's only in 3 states,
three
and
states, right?
yeah,
California,
California, Minnesota, and Georgia.
right?
And when I looked it up this morning, I didn't see a fee. It just said get. Uh, I didn't see a fee connected with it, but I'll check that out too, because I was reading the different things from the app. But I thought it was a free app from the way it's presented on the iPhone, anyway.
I check it as well while you're at it because I hadn't looked for it on in California. But again, in the premise of the app, I agree with the idea. And like for instance, I normally put my phone. I have an area where I can put my phone on my dash, and it actually can record, what's going on in the car, as well as if someone were to come up to my window. And you also can put a phone holder. So the whole idea of saying, you reaching for your phone, that's not necessary. You got an app, you open that app, as you see the cop throw the lights on, you put your
Mhm.
phone up there on your dash, and hopefully it takes over from there. And that's just one additional thing you can use in your defense. But so the premise of the app I like. I don't think it's obviously a
Foolproof.
yeah, foolproof or a means to end it all. It's just a tool. I just think anytime we work to come up with tools, it's a good idea. So I'm just for anything that's going to give lean in us having evidence that we can collect, which will in some cases alter the way you're going to be approached by the police officers and a lot of law enforcement. I've been effective in doing stuff like that when lived in Texas when I used to deal with a lot of racism by just having a law book. I get ready to get pulled. I get pulled over. I pick up my law book, throw it on my dashboard. Officer walk up and they see a motor vehicle handbook with a law book right there on the dashboard. They gonna automatically think that you are a law student. So then they approach you a little bit different than they would somebody that doesn't know that because they looking around in the car. And if they see a
Mhm.
law book on your dashboard, they gonna think a little bit different about how
Mhm.
they confront you. And there's been times where I've even said, "Hey, officer, I did this and it was just so funny." I was like, "I'm glad you pulled me over." I said, "I was just looking up law such and such, and I want to know what's your opinion on this." And I
It'll
may
dumbfound
quote,
them, I'm sure.
yeah, I don't. So here I am trying to strike a conversation as I'm handing them my card, and I'm trying to talk to them and ask them stuff, and they don't want that. You asking them law questions, you act like you like the idea of getting pulled over. You change the perspective in which how they approach you. So instead of us, having mean mugging, having attitude, doing the things that they want you to do to help justify why they can, now all of a sudden justify how they have a negative attitude and then ask you, tell you to get out the car and then hold you at gunpoint. We have to be able to recognize how we need to learn to de-escalate. We live in a society where you also have to be accountable for the way you deal with the law enforcement. So I'm a full supporter in de-escalating the situation, if for no other reason, my safety. But I agree with all types of tools that are available to help record and videotape, as well as have witnesses as to what's going on, as well as knowing the art of de-escalation and not falling for anything that's going to allow them to deem me as a threat or as a anything that can allow them to escalate the situation.
Mr. Williams is talking about something that I mentioned in terms of some sort of technology or cameras to focus on everything that's going to happen in and out of the car. Number two, that it be available for everybody because there's going to be a cost to it. And this is what I thought of months ago when I first heard of it. And then I think eventually, I think manufacturers of cars should start putting that kind of technology in the car as it's being built. So that's one way of it being available to everybody, and it may take a while for years, but in order to get it in as many people's hands as possible for everyone to have access to it. Those are some of the ways I thought of doing this and advancing this kind of technology and
Miss
things
Sims,
that. Yes,
you see this little thing right here?
I see you holding something, but I can't see what it says
Yeah.
or
It
what it
it,
is.
it costs $10 and it's a video camera.
Mhm.
It
I
kind
can
of looked like a flask. I wasn't sure what it was.
no
It
well
looks like a stack of stickies to me, yellow stickies to me.
well
But
well
but either,
I didn't
yeah.
want to open. I can open up the box if you want, but then it's
No,
gonna cost.
I
But
believe
then
you.
it's
I
gonna
don't
cost
disagree.
you $10 because I'm gonna send it to you. But
Okay,
but
okay. I'll accept
and,
it. Accept it.
you
I'll be
and
looking
you
for it in the mail. I
okay
accept it.
okay
Your
all
gift.
right
I'll be
okay
looking for it in the
and
mail.
I will make sure that you have it. And
All
it
right.
comes with instructions, and I will also send you the
Now she said gift,
address.
James. You said you gonna
That's
charge
right.
her,
No,
and
no,
she
no,
Listen,
said
no, no.
gift.
it doesn't do everything that I said. I said and expecting it to do.
It'll record wherever you want it to record. If you put it in your
Send
car,
instructions with it.
yeah, the
Send
instructions.
instructions with the gift that you're sending to me.
Now, I didn't say gift. I said
Yeah, that's what I said, and you agreed to it. I said it several times. You agreed to it. Yeah, yeah. But
but
I think it's a
but
way
you
of us fighting back, or the kind of leveling things, or putting in check that that there's a way of the public fighting back for a better word, or
Mr. Scott, since you got pulled over, have you thought about putting a video camera in your car?
No, I not really, but I guess I have to agree with what Mr. Moore said, because I had a Black History Month program a few years ago where I had the commander, Mr. Charles Adams, who's a commander of Minneapolis Police. He's a Black man, longtime policeman. His son's a policeman. His son was North High School football coach with Tyler Johnson, got him into the NFL, and he's now security for the Minnesota Twins. And so he came to talk to our program around the time of the Philando Castile situation. And he told our audience, he's commander of Minneapolis Police. And he says he got stopped. He has a gun on him. And he said he just kept his hands on the hill, and he went complete de-escalate. What can I do for you, sir? What blah blah blah. What blah blah blah. And he had a gun on him. But at the same time, you look at Philando Castile, who was licensed to have his gun. He told the officer that he had a gun on him, and the officer still killed him. So I think we still have this perception among police that driving while black. How do we eliminate that? I guess we have to eliminate those type of officers. I guess that's the only way you can do it. But the Philando was so sad because he had his gun, he's licensed, he told the officer that, and the officer just panicked and he's just shooting, afraid, scared, just shooting several times into the car and killed him.
They shot Amir Lock 3 times. How many? If he's a
Yeah,
policeman, so anyway. But
yeah.
uh, uh, another thing we were talking about before you came in, Brother Williams, was trust and accountability for the police. We saw that the SWAT officer in Minneapolis was, they said that there won't be any criminal charges brought because he feared for his life, even though from our videos, the gun was pointed toward the floor. So once again, as I asked uh, Mr. Scott and Ms. Sims, if your police department is not trustworthy, how do we, as a black community, how do we accept them trying to enforce the laws that they actually violate?
Well, let me first talk about the SWAT team because you have to know the difference between how SWAT is trained versus the regular law enforcement. SWAT, when they do their tactical training, especially their close quarters combat training, which is what they do when they enter homes. Uh, if they see a firearm in a hand of someone, they're trained to kill. SWAT are trained to kill people from the
Mhm.
standpoint of how they do room clearing. So you, in a situation like that, what happened is what I would expect to happen from a SWAT officer, especially one that is serving a homicide investigative warrant. They did what they are trained to do. The problem would be, to me, they don't necessarily come in with the officer, although I obviously completely agree and share in the pain of what happened to that young man. But to know that when you're talking about SWAT serving no knock warrants, they are breaking and entering into that house with the intent that if I see a hostile, someone with a gun, I am going to shoot and kill.
It's
That is
almost
what
like
SWAT is does.
it's almost like how you prepare to go on those convoy and raids in the military. When you
Yep.
get trained for the military, you are not trained to see a person and try to, hey, do you think you want to let down your gun? Can we talk about
No,
it?
you
No. When
clear
you
a
That's
room.
not that's
You
not a police
exactly,
clear
officer.
a room.
it's
And
the
when
same.
you
It's
say
the same
clear, that
difference.
means that there's no threat left in that room.
And when you think about it from that perspective, James, you should have a better grasp and understanding of what the police mindset is going into it, because they go to work every day with this mindset of today might be the day that somebody might try me and I might get killed. Something might happen today where I might have to kill somebody. And when you go on that edge already, when you start your day on that edge every day, that's already a problem. That's already like instant PTSD in the line of duty, because you're
And
going with a traumatized mindset of something's gonna happen today. I might, you know what I'm saying? And you got, and no, it's almost like going to war. People always say, well, were you scared in war? You don't have time to be scared when you go to those type of situations. You have to go in those situations prepared for anything, because if you're not, that could be your life instead of the other person's. So in the aspect of that, I get it. But when there is no real threat or any threat, or it's just somebody's. Some of these people are going and they are scared from the time that they clock in. They already like, damn, I don't know, and they go in scared. So if you go into a situation in fear, especially in fear of a black person, I don't care how big, small they think the smallest 5 foot nothing black person is like 10 foot to them. Like in the spirit realm or some other realm they got to be looking at, because it don't matter the size of a black person, they fear that. And that
Gary
fear
Coleman,
makes them
Webster.
react.
and the attitude that they go into those situations with is
I
when
think,
they
yeah,
brief each other, the attitude is, look, we're gonna all go home tonight.
Mhm.
After this is over, we're gonna all go home. And to say that from a combative perspective basically means that your life is
It's
not
more
worth
important.
risking
Mhm.
the possibility of being injured in a job to where you day to day, day in and day out, you're facing hostiles. We're talking about the SWAT team, right? So from that standpoint, I completely understand why the officer did what he did. My position and my problem is the no knock warrant position. Period. No knock warrant shouldn't be taking place. And so from that standpoint, although this brother lost his life, the way I look at it is is that you have to eliminate the no knock warrants, and they need to sue the hell out of the city, and the police department from the perspective of basically uh, preventing this type of activity to happen again. I don't think you would be able to really have a case against the officer, but you still got a civil case and you still got a some type of ramification. And to me, and I've talked bad in the past about, what I call shark lawyers, the ones that just really go in knowing that their whole aim is to get money. In a situation like this, I hope they can sue them. I don't know how much the lawsuit is, but I hope they can get them for 100 million. I hope they can just really hit them in the pocketbooks to the extent the word really hurts. But to me, this is part of the problem. Part of the problem to me is when attorneys go after these type of situations, what they should be seeking is not just money for the family, immediate family, but like for instance, get awarded money that's going to like fund cop watch programs, that's going to put back into legal first aid, free legal first aid for the community, so that we as black people that can't necessarily afford to know what's going on or aware of that stuff, you have these free classes that people can attend to learn how to deal with law enforcement, to learn your rights, to learn even your self-defense rights. The point is when money, all these millions of dollars that are won from these type of cases, some of them need to go into operations that can hold the police accountable. If you say that I'm gonna spend $1 million, I'm gonna allocate $1 million a year for a cop watch program, I guarantee you the cops are gonna be upset and gonna be on the edge of their seat because now they know they're gonna have people around following them and watching their every move, and it's gonna be videotaping all of these incidents and all of these situations. You literally put together a task force that will do their due diligence to hold law enforcement accountable. So when these lawsuits are filed, we need them to not just simply go toward an individual that was lost their life, but to actually fund programs that will actually address law enforcement and have ongoing operations within the community that address that. So to me, that's the biggest thing. And that's what I would hope start happening out of these kind of situations. And obviously the eradication of anything that's a no knock warrant.
Dovetailing on to what Mr. Williams is saying, I sincerely believe in that also out there in all this mix is among policemen, some policemen, I'm not going to blanket all of them, resentment and whatever it is, and getting back at their policemen going to trial and going to jail. I think there's still some of that element out there, with the resentment of police
Definitely.
being taken to court and some of them not getting off of something, going to jail. And one of the things that I thought about in terms of this no knock warrant is my understanding from what the last I heard, they tried to get a warrant from a judge in or whomever in St. Paul. That didn't work. So they came to Minneapolis. And the judge that signed that no knock was a judge on a Shelvin case. Now he knew, uh, you would think he knew, who sat in that courtroom and saw all the dynamics that was at play, etc., etc. This judge knew all that dynamics that took place. Why would he, you know, contribute to another situation that would entail and possibly include people, black people, other people getting killed again? So you have to, that's what I,
We
that's those
we
are the
we
things I
we
think of.
we had asked that question also. Why would he issue that warrant after under those circumstances after going through the Chauvin
Yeah,
trial?
that
But Mr.
contributes to that
Scott,
comfort level. Yeah,
Mr. Scott, we've
Yeah,
talked about earlier about how
yeah,
much money has been paid out by the
yeah,
city of Minneapolis in these cases.
yeah,
What do you
yeah.
think about Mr. Brother Williams' idea of some of this coming back in the community in terms of some type of police watch or some type of police oversight?
I think it's an excellent idea. I mean, just like I was saying when Commander Adams came and talked to us about the de-escalation, but in the Amir case, when you have your uh, head law enforcement officials come out and give you a narrative that this man pointed the gun at the officers, and the officer says, "I feared for my life." Okay, but the video doesn't show that he pointed the gun at the officers. And so, if the law is, and if the rules of this is, if anybody has a gun, and it's a SWAT team, where you can be killed. I mean, so this is where the outrage comes from the community, with the disconnect of the understanding of what the rules of this thing is. Because I mean, they sat there and they tell you that he pointed the gun at the officers. The officer said he was in fear of his life, and that's it. But that's not what I saw. And so maybe that's the law. Maybe that's the way it goes down, but that's not what I saw.
But then
And
that goes
dovetailing on
back.
what Mr. Scott's saying, and going follow the money route. What ticks me off, going back to the bottom line and thinking, as a taxpayer that goes into the system that's funding everybody, I am paying for somebody to kill me. That's going to kill me. I'm paying their salary and for them to make a living and their kids to go to school. And so I'm paying for somebody to kill me. That ticks me off to no end. And I think because we as a population, as a society, through the generations, have honored and respected that police have guns and they're key. I think that's one of the reasons why have been conditions. One of the reasons why it's taken so long for people to realize, hey, we're paying. And anytime you pay money into something, you got power. But the thing about that, you have to. What grows your power and really substantiate it is more people. Again, a group of people going forward with the same one like mind. And so bottom line, I don't think people have stopped to think about that we're paying into a system and to people that are killing. It's going to kill me. It's going to possibly kill my son who's driving out on the road, or people that I care about. That's the bottom line of it.
People think about that. You can hear people say it in videos that I am paying y'all to protect me. Why are y'all trying to kill me? You hear people tell them that.
I have heard
Brother Williams, didn't Huey Newton tell these people the same thing?
Yeah, that's exactly that's what protection means, people. You can't have it both ways, okay? That is what police protection means. And it's always going to be aimed toward the ones that are that have versus the have not. Okay? It don't even sound right to say that police are going to protect the have nots. That don't even sound right. So the bottom line is that's what it means to the Black community. But now when we talk about SWAT teams, they are, if you see a weapon pointed in any direction, don't necessarily got to be at you, they're going to shoot. They're going to shoot. My thing is, I wonder why, from a tactical standpoint, why they didn't use a flashbang. So from that standpoint, they might have could have cleared the room a better way. I don't think the way they cleared the room was effective. And that's just looking at close quarter combat from that standpoint. So if anything, I think maybe their training may have been flawed to some degree. But nonetheless, you have to eradicate the no-knock warrants. Money needs to be pulled in when these types of lawsuits are filed, to where you reinforce our ability to be able to deal with the police. And it's not just talking about like police review boards. That's what I'm saying. We need to take it a step deeper. Get the community involved. That's what I'm saying. Take actions to get the community involved in monitoring police. Because when you do things like that, now you make it harder for the police to be able to operate in a situation to where they can get away with different things that happen. It wouldn't necessarily affect the SWAT situation.
They'll fight you tooth and nail not to do that. I mean, here in
I get that, but they're gonna fight you tooth and nail. Period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you're so I'm telling them what the Mr. Williams is saying regarding the SWAT. Anytime a SWAT team is called, you can expect somebody to end up dead, and the police are going to make sure. Just having a
Qualified
SWAT
immunity.
part of their training is they're going to kill somebody if they, you know what he said,
if there
gun
are
with your
if there
gun.
are guns
So it's
involved,
gonna not
if there are
be.
guns
Yeah,
involved,
yeah,
and the SWAT team
yeah,
does
yeah,
does if they clear the room like that where they didn't use flashbangs,
yeah,
where they where they don't do situations that's going to cause people to to
Arrest their
to
attention.
yeah,
ball
yeah,
down
yeah,
because their ears
yeah,
busted and their eyes they can't see. You see
yeah,
what I'm saying? They just entered straight in
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
a situation
And
to
with
where
all
they didn't do that.
and with all that, what also adds into the mix, now the population and community are and people, they also are getting guns. So that is going to heighten. That's going to also add to the fear of police. Hey, now other
Yeah,
people can get guns now, get guns too.
But if
And
if you
so
if you eliminate no knock warrants and the police have to bang on your door, that gives you an opportunity to know what the hell is really going on
yeah. Oh, I
instead
talk
of
about
instead
all
of
over. Yeah,
waking up to somebody already in
in your
your
face.
face
yeah,
yelling. You
yeah,
don't know
yeah.
what's being yelled at.
But
Mhm.
You don't know
my
what's going
You gonna
on.
get up
understanding,
in
the
a
SWAT
sweat.
specialized, so they're not called on everything on everything. So
No.
the other guys are out here running around killing me. I mean, the other
Well,
guys are out
that
there
again,
running possibly
that's why I talked
killing
about
me.
Cop
Yeah,
Watch. That's why I talked about
yeah,
Cop Watch. And even in the
yeah,
Panther Party,
yeah,
we've done it, and we've been effective to some degree when we've done it to where we see a cop pull somebody over, we go get behind them
yeah,
while they're
yeah,
pulling somebody over. I
yeah,
guarantee you, if more people would take an active role, and when they see an officer pull someone over or they see anything that's being engaged with law enforcement,
yeah,
they
yeah,
actually are involved. And you will have less cases. I ain't gonna say that's gonna eliminate it, but
yeah,
the point is, it's an approach to start saving lives. And
yeah,
when it starts working and you keep it going, then it has an effect, and that ripple effect will create more positive results, leaning toward in our favor. And that's all I'm saying.
yeah. What heightened my fear
Dr.
and
Casey,
anxiety doing after the George Floyd was killed, and there were people going around in our communities, in my communities, uh, doing things and to intimidate people who live there, etc., etc. And what heightened my fear, I saw in our neighborhood, I saw a lot of people, males that I gone to church with, and other members of the community, have armed themselves, and they had pictures out there showing them with their guns and ready to fire back. So it was like an unspoken battle that they were ready for to do to protect them, their own, the stores, our community. And it reminded me of the pictures long ago where I used to see the Black Panthers as they stood
we, we
openly out with their arms and
But
right,
that was different. What the Black Panthers
right,
did was, again,
way back then, in terms of protecting their community, their people, etc., etc. They did it because of police violence and things and whatever
yeah,
was
but
happening
it
in their
is a
thing.
little different. It's a little different when a
Yeah,
group of people is actually structured to where they know how to confront law enforcement with
yeah,
law books and weapons
right,
when
right, right,
when you're legal,
right, right, right.
versus average citizens going out and arming up
Yeah,
themselves and
yeah,
saying
yeah,
that I'm just going to be armed and ready, because you actually
yeah. It's a
asking for it.
battle. It's a
That
gun
no,
battle. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
different. That's
that
different.
yeah
I'm not.
yeah, yeah. That's
I
different.
yeah
got to point out
I
the
agree.
difference.
I agree.
Miss Sims.
yeah
Okay,
I
I got to
agree.
point
I
out
yeah
the
agree.
yeah
difference.
you can't use that term gun battle, Miss Sims.
Yeah.
But
That's,
even
that's
arming, even arming in the
arm
last
being armed and a gun battle is two
It's
different
two
things.
different things.
You can't.
So in Georgia,
if things come down to that and things go wrong, that's what can happen.
Some of those people with those weapons are going to throw them down and run away.
mhm.
Possibly, possibly.
Okay, okay.
Mr. Scott,
As I mean, Dr. Casey talked about the same thing. The girl behind the tire. She ain't the only one. So,
She is definitely.
uh, Dr. Casey, Miss Sims ain't gonna let us get out of here. Miss Sims ain't gonna let us get out of here tonight. But I'm going. But we're gonna get out of here. So,
I am, yeah,
Doc-
yeah.
so Dr. Casey, why don't you give us your final thoughts first?
So it's crazy that y'all talk about the having a weapon and being weaponized as citizens, because in Georgia they just passed a law where anybody can get a gun. Well, I mean, these laws are kind of frivolous a little bit, because if you're really trying to get a gun, you gonna get a gun. It don't matter who say you can have a gun. If you want a gun, there is a way for you to get a gun. So, a lot of times, I think a lot of these laws, when it comes to weapons, are frivolous because criminals are not going and getting legal guns. They're going to get criminal guns from other criminals. And it's so crazy even to think of that, because I remember when I was in the army after I came back from Iraq, in 2004, I'm stationed in Kansas, Big Red One, whore. And one of the sergeants that I was working, I was on physical limitations or whatever. So they had me working at the gym facility on base. And I was literally working with a sergeant that was selling arms on the black market. And it was the craziest thing because he was just like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. And, so when you really think about the reality of life versus the condensed version of what people tell you should be going on, might be happening, or what people believe about not only this country but the people that's within it, you really never know who is who. You really always got to be on your toes. You really should always be prepared for whatever, and not in the sense of tomorrow might be your last day, but it might be. The fact of the matter is, we don't know when our final breath will be. We don't know if it's going to come by violence, natural causes, food poisoning, or an allergic reaction. All we know is that while we're here, we should be purposeful. So, when we think about the laws that are in place, when we think about all of these things, the best thing to do when possible is to be blameless. And when I say be blameless, stay out of trouble. If you can stay away from trouble, stay away from people that be in trouble, do it. And it's no safe place for real. The other day I was thinking, like, man, I wanted to go out, run the streets of Atlanta. But in Atlanta right now, you might get shot just being somewhere random. So I don't know if I really want to be out in the streets like that. I mean, I want to turn some corners. I didn't, you know, it's just a part of who I am to get out, to at least drive around, even if I drive around for 20 minutes and take myself back home. It's just getting out of the house. And I was thinking, like, well, if I stay home, I'm safe. But that's only as safe as I can be at home, because no matter where you go, there's a possibility that something may happen that could alter your life for the rest of your life. So, in my final thoughts for tonight, it, my final words would be: make the best out of this life. Don't wait for somebody to tell you that you can. Don't wait for nobody to give you permission. Don't wait for nobody to educate you. Don't wait for nobody to save you, because nobody's coming. And even if somebody do come, they're going to need support in trying to save you. So you still need to be prepared. Let's stop being reactionary to things and let's start preparing for what's to come. Because at the end of the day, whatever you prepare for is what you will have. It's like I was saying earlier. We keep saying that we won't change, but if we sit down at the table with them right now, what list of demands of things are we going to give them to say, okay, this is what we want? Aside from reparations, aside from 40 acres and a mule, what else? Because right now there is not really a plan in place
Mhm.
that the black community, that to where anybody could go up and say, okay, these are the things that as a community we need or want. Most times, if you put two different leaders up there, they could be friends. They're gonna have two different perspectives. So the goal needs to be to come to a strategic plan collectively, individually. Have something in mind for yourself and for your family. When we talk about generational wealth, that also means generational healing. That also means generational building. That also means generational unity and business. So take life serious, but enjoy the ride. That's it.
Mr. Scott, what's your final thoughts for the evening?
I'm just gonna make it quick. As my mom would say, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. You just try to do right. And so that's kind of how. And the final thing, I guess, is Dad said if the dog hadn't stopped the doo doo, he'd have caught the rabbit.
Brother Williams, on that note, you want to give us your final thoughts? Miss Sims, I'm gonna let you take us home.
All right. I would say basically, people, we have to accept the fact that we are living in a police state. We are living in a situation where we are at war, kind of going back to what Miss Sim was saying, and I say oftentimes. But knowing that you are at war, knowing that you're living in a police state, the only way we're going to have change is that we implement change together, not have this mentality to where you keep looking for this quote unquote black leadership to to free you or bring you to this point, but it takes the community to actively be involved in their liberation. If you want change, if you want solutions, then you have to be a part of that solution. So I'm saying we have to be accountable. We have to want to be accountable. We have to want to know more. We have to want to be politicized. We have to want to stand up and actually work toward change. It's going to take some of your TV time. It's going to cost you some of the club time. It's going to cost you some of your church time. The bottom line is, do you want to continue to live oppressed and subjugated and treated as an inferior, or will you get yourself some position of power so that you can sit at a table of power? Power only respects power. And if you come to the table with anything less, you're going to be ran over. You're going to be treated as an inferior, and the things that are happening will continue to happen. The only way these things will change is if we actively engage in making a change, so that the next generation don't have to go back and refight the same fights and the same battles that we fought, which are the same fights and the same battles that the past generations have fought. We need to stop, stop. We need to get off the hamster wheel. Get off the hamster wheel and let's take an active role in our liberation at whatever level we can. That's my final
Okay.
thought.
Okay.
Brother Williams, did you ever find out whether that app was free here in California or not?
I downloaded it. It let me log in, but then it's asking me to verify my email, and I asked it to resend an email, resend it, and I did it twice, and it ain't sent me my email. It ain't verified my email address yet because I tried hitting to call the attorney to see what had happened, and then it said I had to verify my email.
Uh,
So I'm still checking it out, but I downloaded and I signed up. I'm just waiting to see what's going on.
All right. We maybe we'll hear some more from you on that next week. Maybe.
Yep.
Ms. Sims, you want to take us in? Take us
Right.
home?
The first thing, and dovetailing on when Mr. Williams was speaking, a couple of things came to mind during my earlier um, community organizer training. Two phrases that came to mind was we were taught power recognizes power,
Mhm.
and then two, you're the change that you've been waiting for.
Yep.
You're the change that you've been waiting for. And then number two, I want to uplift Mr. Scott in regards to his position and where he comes from on his Saturday broadcast with Don Allen on our Black News. They're in the process of interviewing various candidates for Hennepin County Sheriff and maybe other ones, but I think Hennepin County Sheriff. And he is the only one. At times, to me, he's the only one that finds himself in a position of standing up And speaking back to the rest of the guests, he holds firm, and I compliment you on that. And one of the things that you did and said that really shot my heart up and made it fly was it wasn't this week's guest, but I think last week's guest when something the conversation got to, and it usually ends up well was whether it was voting or politicians, and it was well we can't do anything about it. What can we do about it? And you said I'm going to do something about it, something like that. You stood up in terms of saying and coming across. You're not just going to let things be. That you're not going to just let whatever the wrong or people's ineffectiveness or attitudes run rapid with you. You stood say, I'm not going to let, I care about it. I'm not going to let it happen or to me or whatever. And I really applauded you for doing and saying that. And I hope people recognize people that feel and think the way that you and I do and where we're coming from. I hope they got that and got that not only you not by saying that you not only showed and it came across that you really meant what you said, and it also showed the content of your character in regards to
I
not just looking
appreciate
out
that.
for yourself, not just looking out for yourself and your family, but you thought about others in the
Well, I
community.
appreciate
And
that. I have to tell
yeah,
you,
yeah,
I appreciate that. And
yeah,
Miss Sam, see, everybody wants to get a victory over me. And
yeah,
see, that's the way it's going. They know if they could get a victory over me, they go try to find their
yeah,
kinfolk back in Africa. Tell
yeah,
them, guess what? I used to play tennis with people, and I
yeah,
might
yeah,
struggle, and I phone the ring. I heard you didn't beat well, so and so is not that
yeah,
yet, but
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I try to have my say, and I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
it.
and
I
you
appreciate
do it, and you do, and I recognize you doing it in your manner, in the content of your character, and I appreciate that. Then number two, I hope people realize that even though the blanket immunity covers out there for organizations like Dr. Casey referred to, that people, especially the organization that's here supposedly looking into that's been formed regarding the police um, and what they're doing, that they don't overlook the aspects of police unions and the power that they have and the far reach that they have in regards to whatever's going on. That need in terms of changing attitudes and way of thinking coming not only from the police, but making the community aware of what's going on. So that needs to be talked about, those unions and what they do and don't do and what they are accountable for. And then finally, that people start to realize that all this hell and high water that's swirling around us and in the fear that others are exuding on whatever, that we as a people and being organized and as a community, we are not helpless. We have power, and we need to exude that power and push it in the right directions. The numbers are out there in terms of people being able to do this and move forward. But a lot of people don't realize that they have that power. That power is there. And it really bothers me when I hear other organizations and whatever all around, and I don't know if they realize that we're going to empower you. To me, that really goes against my grain because people already have power. They may not realize it, but I would rather hear all the organizations, whatever, say, we're going to remind you of the power that you have and how to use it. And uh, thank you and good night. The
Uh,
end.
Miss Sims, I'm glad you talked about the police union,
Mhm.
but you just had a teacher strike or the threat of a teacher strike.
And that all unions are
Wait,
powerful.
wait, wait, wait. So I want you to also look upon the power of the teachers union Don't just put it on the police
I
because
looked into that.
because we're also talking about the miseducation of our youth.
Right,
So
right.
so,
I
but,
didn't forget that. I've been looking into that, James. I look at unions. That people forget how they first came about in terms of way back when, for the reason
Right.
that they came about, and over the years they've become powerful,
something
more
else,
powerful.
not what they were intended to be.
Yeah.
But I want to thank everyone for their participation tonight. I look forward to talking to everybody next Monday. And hey, as Dr. Casey and everyone said, make sure you be safe out there and handle your business, but make sure you're handling your business.
Peace
Keep
and
the
love
lights
till
on.
next time, everyone. Peace and love. Bye bye. Good night.
Have a good night, everyone. See you next week.
All right.
Hi, Dr. Casey. I like your
night.
tattoo. I didn't get a chance to talk to you about your tattoo.
Right.
Happy